خليه يصعد فوق. ما راح الكاميرا ثابته يصعد فوق.
اوكي طيب ان شاء الله.
ما حد يقدر
ان شاء الله. بسم الله.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. نصيحة؟ خليه ولا نصيحة؟ لا هو الصوت. خليه ولا نصيحة؟ خليه شوي. النمبر طويل على شوي.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. رحم الله من أعادها ثانية. على حب محمد وآل محمد ثالثا بأعلى أصواتكم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين أمهلهم رويدا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. عظم الله أجوركم وأجورنا بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام، وجعلنا الله وإياكم من الطالبين بثاره مع إمام منصور من آل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
My dear brothers and sisters, tonight is the second night of Muharram. So tomorrow will be the second day for Muharram. And so, Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us tawfiq this year. We have brother Haaj, Hadi, Tabrizi here, he's sitting here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the tawfiq. He's joining us. And he's not a guest, he's inshallah, we all are guests tonight on the Imam Hussain alayhi salam and on the Sufra of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. So, shukr lillah, I request you, my dear brother and sister, to do loud salat as a welcome for Hajj Hadi. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And before I pass the phone to Haji, there's some logistics. Please control the kids, the noise. Also, try to, especially the youth, they need to stay out of their phone. Focus and listening, to Hajj, get learn. This is the mission of the night. This is why we are here. We are here, inshallah, for spiritual development. We need to develop ourselves, we need to improve ourselves, and this is the opportunity. And there is no better opportunity than this message of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. So please control the kids. No food, please don't give the food, kids and candy and all that, because they throw it on the ground and on the carpet. And please try to focus and try to learn, inshallah. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. رحم الله من عادها ثانية.
اللهم صل على محمد
على حب محمد وآل محمد ثالثا بأعلى أصواتكم.
اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه والنور أرش أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وسيدنا وسندنا وشفيعنا ومولانا أبو القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. أما بعد، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Everyone together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي عبد الفضل العباس وأختك زينب وبنتك رقية جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, I would like to greet you all with the warmest of Islamic greetings, and that is none other than Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And for the younger ones that are fairly new to this majlis, as you know, there's more and more youth coming to these centers, and they hear this term Assalamu alaikum all the time, and And sometimes it just goes way over their head. So for those that don't know what that means, I am starting this lecture by saying, may God's peace and blessings be upon you all. Firstly, I would like to begin in the name of God, the most beneficent and most merciful. For without his mercy and kindness, opportunities such as these would not be presented to us. 1,400 years have passed since an event in Islamic history, or in the history of humanity, which has gone viral throughout the world. This name, Hussain, continues to grow year after year. A man that was killed with his family and whose women and children were taken hostage in a desert in the land we know today as Iraq. His blood, his story, his sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has transcended time itself. That tonight we sit in a city by the name of Memphis, in the state of Tennessee, in the United States of America, 1,400 years after the math. And there is some sort of spiritual energy that has brought all of you from different races, different backgrounds, different lifestyles, all together under this roof. It is without a doubt that this sacrifice of Imam Hussain was so grand in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that each and every one of your presences is nothing but a fulfilled promise to the man that gave everything for the sake of Allah. For he says in his own words, on that fateful afternoon, on the boat of Ashura, he looks around. He is alone now. He's just him and the shaitan. He goes behind the tent and he dusts his ahab. He says, oh, Allah bear witness, on this day, Hussain has given you everything. Brothers and sisters, today we are sitting in what seems to be a peaceful world. We get to make families, we get to go get educated. We don't have marauders down the street trying to attack our families and steal our wealth. We have the ability to organically grow, seek success, and yet never has there been more turmoil in the households. Never have there been more divorces in the world. Never have there been more losses of households. Never have there been more teens suffering from depression. And some may argue, well, what's happening? Things are supposed to be good. What happens in this world that today many are confused when I say the battle is just beginning? The war has just begun. Brothers and sisters, in this lecture series, and tonight being the introduction, we will look through history, we will look at the present, and we will look at the future to see what happens when we collide reality with spirituality. Today, there are studies coming out in Harvard trying to understand why people are getting more and more depressed. And they've concluded that there is a deep detachment from spirituality that has caused people to be lost and afraid. People don't know what they're doing anymore. So, from a child's perspective, when they are first brought up, they are told, go to school. Great. Pass junior kindergarten and go to senior kindergarten. From senior kindergarten, go to grade school. Get through grade school. Now study in high school really, really hard. Why? Because you need to go to college. What happens after that? Well, once you get to college, you get to earn your degree, and you can choose to study more or get a really good job. Well, then what happens after that? Well, there is something else waiting for you after that. You have to get a really good job. And then you have to go and find a wife or a husband. Then you have to go and so on and so forth, make a family, and continue and continue and continue. And all along this entire journey of your life, you were told that happiness is right behind that door. Something is waiting once you pass this level. It's almost like a video game for kids. Hey, get past level 1, level 2 is waiting. Get past level 3, level 3. But what happens when you reach the end? Well, this entire time you've been struggling, like a carrot has been waiting in front of you this entire time, trying to attain something that they told you you can only attain unless you pass level 1, then 2, then 3. And then at some point you reach the age of 40, you've done everything, you've hit all the check marks on the list, and you feel nothing. Where did I go wrong? I did everything I was supposed to do. And the reality was that you were never, ever, throughout this entire journey, experiencing now, the present. The present. Did you ever take a look around you to see what's going on? For Allah says in the Quran, in the remembrance of Allah does the heart find peace and tranquility. No, you were told that you're not happy yet until you achieve that. Get that good grade so you can go to that college. Get that college degree so you can get this job. Get this job so you can get this family. Now get this. Continuously being told that there is a carrot waiting for you behind another door, but you were never here. You were living in the future. Never now. And so what happens is a phenomenon happens in many people's lives, and they call this a midlife crisis. A midlife crisis is when you see that older gentleman driving a really nice sports car because he never could get one when he was younger. And now he's trying to live his youth in his elder years. And now we walk in this concept because he was never here. I need to feel like a shabab again. I need to, what happened? It all went so quick. So quick. My life passed me by. And then, in the midst of all this, you are a select few that have been chosen to come and congregate and remember an event in history. An event in history that is a promise fulfilled to one man. How did you get here? What were all the things that could have stopped you tonight, that could have taken place, but yet you still showed up? What kind of excuses could you have made to not come tonight, and yet you still showed up? You rented my voice for the next 10, 11 nights for a story you've already known. You've heard since you were a child, and yet you're still here. It's like, well, would you ever watch a movie more than 10 times? Probably not, it gets boring. But yet this story, there's something particular about this story. It's peculiar. It's like no matter how many times you get this reminder of this story, you might actually learn something. You might actually grow. You might actually seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From a story? Yes. The story transcends time itself. So, I always say, the ones that show up on the first few nights, there's a very special presence to them. And this is the tent of Imam Hussain in Memphis. And you enter early on. Ironically, in the story of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he gets to Karbala, his army was in the hundreds, if not thousands, on the first of Muharram. And they lay their camps out. And as you draw closer and closer to the 10th of Muharram, the day of Ashura, you found that the people slowly begin to leave. This is one interesting fact that you can look. It's a very ironic fact that on the first night there's how many people? Fewer people. But as you draw closer to the day of Ashura, more people show up. The mosques get packed. There isn't enough food to feed everyone. It's as though this reaction that people left Imam Hussain by himself on the 10th would now have this opposite reaction as time would go on, that more and more people would now start flocking towards his majlis, his remembrance. And so you were told this interesting fact about Imam Hussain. The one that's able to shed a tear when hearing about Imam Hussain, this teardrop is enough to extinguish the fires of hell. If one is able to shed a tear the size of the wing of a mosquito, the teardrop's power is enough to extinguish the fires of hell. And you're told this. Now, for some, they say, well, what does that mean? If I cry, I get a free coupon. One way, I can do anything I want. You're not the only one to have this thought. One of our most renowned scholars by the name of Hadi had this question when he read the same hadith. How can it be that a teardrop would give someone this much blessings? How can it be that a teardrop for one man at a point in time, not to say Imam Hadi didn't care for it all the same, it's just strange to think that. So one day, Imam Hadi is on a trip and he gets lost. He looks to the left, he looks to the right. He doesn't know how to get home. In the horizon, he sees a young gentleman approaching him. He says, "You seem lost. Can I help you?" He says, "Yes, I'm not sure which direction I'm going anymore, and I'm new to this part of town. Can you help me?" He said, "Yes, follow me." As he was walking with this young gentleman, the young gentleman looked at him and says, "I feel that you have a question on your mind. Would you like to share?" I wonder if he's thinking, is it that obvious? Yeah. So he says, "Yes, I've been pondering on this concept. How could a teardrop save someone from hellfire? Is it that important?" The young man says, "Can I share a story with you?" He says, "Go ahead." He said, "There was once a king who went on a hunting trip and got lost just like you. Finally, when he got lost and separated from his entourage or his servants and army, he came across a small little house in the forest. He went and knocked on the door, and there was a woman with her son living in the house. They welcomed him in. And it was customary at the time that if there was a stranger, first of all, they were allowed to stay for 3 days in your house with no questions asked. By day 3, you say, "What are you doing here?" This is Arab customs. They brought the stranger in not knowing he was a king from a land not so far away. And they wanted to feed him. All they had to their name was that they had a lamb or a goat in the backyard. That's all they had to their name. And they raised it from when it was a small little lamb or cattle. And they thought to themselves, if we feed this man, this stranger that just came, we're not going to have any food later on. But they said, you know what? If we don't feed him, he's been starving for several days, he's been lost. So they slaughter the animal and they feed him. Eventually, the king's servants or connections find him and come take him back. The king looks at the woman and says, "Listen, I am a very powerful man. And I am from this city, this many miles from this place. If you ever need anything, come pay a visit to me." So the story fast forwards. The woman and the boy come to the palace of the king. The king notices and immediately recognizes them. She said, "We are in need. Can you help us? Repay the favor that we once gave you." He said, "Very well, just give me a moment with my advisors. Let me decide how I can repay you for the favor that you gave me." So he looked at a couple of his advisors. So this woman and child gave me everything they owned when I was stranded. What should I do for them? One advisor said, hire her son. Make him one of your knights, give him a good job, and give her a house in the city. Another advisor said, bring him as part of your government, let him be raised in your palace with royalty. Another one suggested something else along those lines, until finally the king said, how unjust all of you advisors are. They gave me something that was all they had. All they had to their name was that goat in the backyard. It is only just that I as a king give them everything I have to repay them. The story comes back to Allama Hadi and the young man. Ya Allama Hadi, a king can be so just as to give everything he has to a woman and her child. But Allah, the most compassionate and merciful, cannot forgive the sin of the one who remembers the man who gave Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything he had. For on the 10th of Muharram, Imam Hussain says, oh Allah, bear witness, Hussain has given you everything. As you know, on the first night, I don't like to get into too deep of a topic because I am trying to set the foundations of what's going to come in the next few nights. I'd like to keep it light. But allow me to share with you one of the miracles that I came across as I was doing my studies with regards to the connection of Hajj and Imam Hussain. This is a little bit of a history lesson for those that don't know. As you know, Imam Hussain, and this is also one of the parts of the topics that I was told to talk about. As you know, Imam Hussain resided in the land of Medina during the time where Yazid's father Muawiyah was reigning in Sham, in Damascus. When Muawiyah's time came to an end, he illegally elected his son to become the next leader. Illegal because Muawiyah had signed an agreement that upon his death, the leadership would return to Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein's older brother, or if Imam Hassan wasn't around, it would return to Imam Hussain. Muawiyah dishonored the agreement. And so, the first thing Yazid does is that he realizes when he becomes the leader or the caliph of the Muslims, that his position is illegitimate unless he gets the allegiance of 4 or 5 individuals that are well recognized. One of them would be the son of the second caliph, the other one would be the son of Zubayr, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and the other one would be Imam Hussain, and there would be another person as well. We don't need to get into names. So he starts sending out letters to attain this allegiance. Now by the time Imam Hussain finds out, at the time, there was a governor in Medina who had requested Imam Hussain to come. And so Walid, the governor of Medina, asks Imam Hussain to come and says to him, oh Hussain, this is what's happened, you need to give your allegiance. Now there is a series of events that happen here that I don't want to get too granular because I don't want to lose your attention. But there was a struggle that happened in this court of Al-Walid. Abbas, Imam Hussein's brother, and Ali al-Akbar got involved. Swords were drawn, and then there was a stalemate to which Al-Walid, out of feeling stressed that he could possibly commit the murder of the grandson of the Prophet, allowed Imam Hussain to leave his courtroom. Now during this time, Al-Walid had an advisor by the name of Marwan ibn Hakim, and he told him, if you let Hussain leave, that's it. Get him now. So at this time, Imam Hussain in the land of Medina decides to pack up his things and make way for the land of Mecca. Now Medina is the place that he was brought up in. Medina is the place he was born. Medina is the place his grandfather Rasulullah has been buried. Medina is the place that his mother Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha was buried. Now for him to leave because of these circumstances shows you how dire things have become And this was part of Imam Hussein's beginning of his revolt. And I wouldn't even call it revolt because the person who was threatening him was never even in station, was in a legal station. But unfortunately, when it comes to Islamic history, it was a free-for-all. Every time we talk about a caliph, for some reason he was there when he wasn't supposed to be there. So Imam Hussain makes way for Hajj. And so it's interesting that in the beginning of Muharram, prior to this, we are in the month of Hajj, and we go and do the tawaf around the Kaaba, we say labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. This is a very interesting phenomenon that happens in history. What happens here is that Imam Hussain goes for Hajj, and he has only the ability to perform the mustahab Hajj known as Umrah. Imam Hussain had made an intention to do the full Hajj. There's a lesser Hajj, and then there's a full Hajj. The full Hajj is what's mandatory for the adults to perform by the time, they pass away. They have to do it at least once. Imam Hussain had made a niyyah to do the full one, but he is cut short because Yazid finds out Hussain is in Mecca, and he sends his assassins after Imam Hussain. So again here, Imam Hussain now leaves Mecca, and at this point, the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab, Abdullah ibn Umar, comes to Imam Hussain and he says, Hussain, I urge you not to go. This is the first glimpse in history where we see Imam Hussain is not after political power, and he has intention to be in Kaaba. He has intention not to be in Mecca. So he responds, he says, Abdullah, first of all, I am in no need of your counsel. Imagine a grandson of the Prophet meets the second caliph's son to advise him. He says, I'm in no need of your counsel. If my blood is to be shed, it shall not be shed in Mecca. There are people in Kufa waiting for me. They've sent me letters. I've sent to my cousin Muslim. I've been happy there. So I must go. So again, Imam Hussain gathers his women and children and his companions on his way to the land of Kufa, where they had been writing letters saying, oh, Hussain, we know that Yazid's position is illegitimate. We know that he doesn't belong there, and we are here for your full support if you were to join us here. So Imam Hussain alayhi salam makes a final speech in Mecca, and he tells everyone, oh people, bear witness. Whoever decides to come with me from here on out, surely death awaits us. Let's put a pause here. This entire story of Imam Hussain gets kicked off from Mecca. Now if you go to Surah Hajj, I believe ayah 26 or 27, you will see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks Prophet Ibrahim and Ismail to build the Kaaba, the black cube. This cube in Mecca that we pray towards was instructed by Prophet Ibrahim, was constructed by him under the instruction of Allah and his son Ismail. So many parallels can be drawn here. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the completion of the Kaaba, he instructs Prophet Ibrahim to make a call to the people. Now this conversation is not in the actual surah, it's not in the Quran, it is actually in the tafsir of the Ahlul Bayt. And one reference you can reference is Shaykh Abbas Qumi's tafsir. In this tafsir, Imam al-Sadiq talks about the conversation between Prophet Ibrahim and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says, Ya Ibrahim, now tell people to come visit this building. At this time, this is about 5,000, 6,000 years ago. You know the story of Safa and Marwa, and Ismail was left there, and he was thirsty, and Hajar went back. Nobody was there for them, yes? It was just a desert. Nothing was there for them. The Kaaba is a couple hundred feet this way. It's just a building standing in a desert, alone. Allah said, Ya Ibrahim, call people to come. But to what and whom will my voice reach? Allah responds, Ya Ibrahim, عليك الأذان وعلي البلاغ. You make the adhan, you make the call. It will be upon me to do the iblagh, to do the announcement. And so, in this riwayah, Imam Sadiq says, Prophet Ibrahim climbed on top of the Kaaba and he said, come and visit your Lord, for he has decreed for you to come and visit him here. And then the hadith says, Allah made this announcement to cover the earth from the east to the west, to the bottom of the soil, to the top of the mountain. And then a response came from the loins of the fathers and the womb of the mothers. And what was the response? Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Labbaik in Arabic means I am here now, Allah. I am here to respond to your call. This is why when you go for Hajj and you do the circumambulation of the Kaaba, you say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Now you know the origins of why you say it. Many people just say, okay, well, I'm here in the Kaaba, I need to recite it. No, this is the origin of the story. Now watch the story unveil itself. In a desolate desert at the time of Ibrahim, a building was created. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to make a call. Prophet Ibrahim says, who's going to hear it? Allah says, leave it to me. You accepted the call that transcended time itself. Who would have thought 5,000 years later, 4 or 5 million Muslims go every year, say, Labbaik Allah, Labbaik. Now Imam Hussain alayhi salam leaves Mecca after doing the tawaf, saying Labbaik Allah. He leaves and he goes towards the land of Karbala. He is stopped there by Yazid's army, and the story unfolds. We don't need to get into the depth of the story. Now, at some point, another call is made in history. And this call, just like Prophet Ibrahim's call, transcends time itself. Imam Hussain alayhi salam now, on the 10th of Ashura, is alone. Everyone that was going to help him, helped him. They're all gone. Everybody from Yazid's army that felt bad had already joined him. هل من ناصر ينصرني؟ هل من مغيث يغيث؟ Is there any helper to help us? Is there anyone to rescue us? Now some scholars say Imam Hussain repeated this 4 times. He faced the west, then the east, then the north and the south. A call that was being made to who? Companions had fallen. Yazid's army no longer cared. 6-month-old has been buried. Today Muslims take pride in the fact that when we look at Hajj, 4 or 5 million people of a diverse group come and circumambulate the Kaaba every year. And they say, Labbaik Allah. This is a compulsory act. You have to do this once in your life. But then a second call came, and a group of people accepted it. A second call came on Ashura, and you and I heard it. And that is why you'll hear Labbaik Ya Hussain. When you go for ziyarah, if you have the tawfiq, you'll hear the Shia roar and say, Labbaik Ya Hussain. I've made it. I heard it. I'm here and I'm ready. Oh Hussain, 1400 years ago you gave everything for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was not there. You stood alone. You asked Who will help me? Who will remember me? Who will honor me? And like the promise the Holy Prophet made to Lady Fatima, there was a response. Now you might be wondering, what is that response? If you would like to dim the lights, we can head into the Musibah tonight. As you know, this is the second night. I'm not going to get into any kind of gruesome or slaughtering of children or anything like that on this night. As you know, when Imam Hussain was in the womb of Bibi Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha, they say that Sayyida Fatima's face became so full of light. In fact, one poet said that it was as if you could not miss your Fajr Salat because when she would awake, the sun's rays would make you awake as well from this brightness. Al-Zahra means the illuminates one, the one who illuminates light. White light, kind light. And so when Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is born, an interesting phenomenon happens. Now I'm going to tell you two versions of the story to conclude. The first version of the story is in the respected brothers of Ahl Sunnah's books. You fought for centuries, brothers and sisters, to get the other Muslims to acknowledge this. Finally, in 2015, I started seeing on the member of Ahl Sunnah, they're talking about it. You beat your chests for them to remember. They made fun of us. They called us crazy. Remember they called us crazy for crying for Imam Hussain? Remember they said, look at these men, they're like women. Women cry for Imam Hussain. Why do you hit yourself? Finally, Sheikh Khalid Latif, the chaplain of New York's University of New York, I saw his video finally in 2015. He is referring to the same source I'm about to tell you. In the Musnad of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, there is a story where Imam Ali alayhi salam and the companion are walking through a desert, and at the time it wasn't named Karbala. When they are in this Nainawa province, Imam Ali stops for a second. He bends over and he says, Asbar ya Aba Abdullah, Asbar ya Aba Abdullah. His companion says, Wama huwa Aba Abdullah. Who's Aba Abdullah? He says, that is the title of my newborn son. He said, then why are you telling him to be patient? He said, let me tell you a time when my son Hussain was first born. I entered upon the house of the Prophet and he was holding him. I came into the house and I saw that the Prophet's beautiful face was covered in tears to the extent that his beard itself was drenched. I said out of concern, Ya Rasulullah, who has upset you? What has happened? He said, Jibreel has just descended and told me that my nation will ruthlessly kill my grandson Al-Hussain. Oh Hadi, if you see my face is full of tears, it is because of the story that I cry. Ya Ahl Sunnah, oh people who claim to follow the traditions of the Prophet. Rasulullah cried 53 years before the event of Ashura. What can you do as Muslims knowing that that event happened and the Ummah did do it? Is it wrong that the Shia uphold this tradition of remembering Imam Hussain? Is it wrong that we choose not to forget? Is it wrong that when Imam Hussain made a call in the desert, we responded, Labbaik ya Hussain? Would it not be the decree of the Prophet to ask all of us to protect his grandson? You forsook that call when you abandoned the story and decided to hide it because it would mess up your political games. We didn't. And no matter how many of us you killed, from the Saddam era to the time of Imam al-Sadiq, when the tribe leaders came to him and said, Ya Imam, Ya ibn Rasulullah, are we supposed to visit Imam Hussain knowing that they're cutting our hands and feet when we go visit him? Imam Sadiq says, go. Go. Do not abandon my grandfather. Allah did not hear. So that is the story in the books of the Brothers of Ahlul Sunnah. But the one in the books of Tashayyuh. Let us see how this story of Imam Hussain is prophesied. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been gifted this grandson. This story does not involve Imam Ali alayhi salam at this point. He goes up to Lady Fatima Zahra sallallahu alaiha, who has given birth about 1 or 2 days. Usually they say it's better if the woman doesn't stand up after giving birth. Fatima Zahra is sitting there. Rasulullah says, Ya Fatima, do you love this child? She says, of course. He is the apple of my eyes. He's my son. She says, Ya Fatima, Allah has named this boy Al-Hussain. It's very well, Father. So, Fatima, Jibreel has just descended upon me and given me news that this little boy of yours will be killed in the land of Kaaba by Muslims. Sayyidina Fatima stands up. Oh Father, where will you be? Oh Fatima, this will happen at a time where I am no longer there. Oh Father, where will I be? Oh Fatima, you will soon follow me after my death, so you will not be there either. And his father Ali? What about his father? He won't protect him? Oh Fatima, it will be at a time where Ali is not there either. And Hassan won't protect my Hussein. Hassan won't be there either. So Sayyidina Fatima falls and begins to weep. Rasulullah says, hold on. If this gives you ease, Ya Fatima, I was told that after the event that has to befall your son Hussein, there will come a tribe whom, when their men hear your name, hear your son's name Hussein, they too will begin to weep like a mother who has lost her child. Saying that Fatima begins to smile. But perhaps on that day my son will be alone. But look how many hearts he's inspired. That when they hear my son's name Hussein, they cry like I do. What do we know of Hussein? Do you know what he looks like? No. Do you know what his favorite food is? Do you know what he used to dress like? No. What an honor it is, brothers and sisters, what an honor it is on this night that you are the fulfillment of the promise made to Lady Fatima Zahra. What an honor it is for us to sit here and remember his name, Al-Hussain. And in our hearts, we respond to the call that was made 1400 years ago. Labbaik ya Hussain. Labbaik ya Hussain. Labbaik ya Hussain. As Zuhair ibn al-Qayn said on the night of Ashura, O Hussain, even if I am killed 1,000 times and brought back to life, cut into 1,000 pieces 1,000 more times, how can I complain when I am with you? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this evening to bless all of your tears. For those that weren't able to cry, perhaps it's early. You have another 7, 8 nights to go, 9 nights to go. The hadith says that even if you're not able to cry, if you felt for a second a little bit of a quiver in your throat from what I said, know that Israel, the angel of death, will be kinder to you than your own mother. Imam says this. On this evening, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your tears. May Allah bless your presence. And inshallah, I hope to see more of everyone as the nights progress. I kept the topic tonight very light. I didn't want to go too deep into things. But at least tonight we have a starting point, a foundation to build on, to really understand the reality versus the spirituality that have to do with these next 10 nights we have to do. وصلى الله على محمد وآل الطاهرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين
Just
يا
turn this.
حسين يا حسين
Oh, that's different than the other book.
يا حسين
Yeah, you could
يا
tell.
حسين
Yeah, same.
يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين
يا راح يقرأ. وراح يقرأ.
أفضل الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
على خدود شجاهة دموعها مالت، على خدود شجاهة دموعها مالت، شهر عاشور قالوا بين هلاله، شهر عاشور قالوا بين هلاله، عاشور الهلاله مأجور في استقباله، عاشور الهلاله مأجور استقباله، صحيح لها بجيتك عسى الله اللي عساها برومة عيني وليك ما صديت، غير النايحة بدار الوحيش خليت، بكيت الرسول المصطفى وعلى بكيت الرسول المصطفى، وعاشور عاشور الهلال مأجور استقبال، عاشور 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 الهلال مأجور استقبال، يا شهر المصايب واللطم والنوح، يا شهر المصايب واللطم والنوح، إهلالك لو أمني نشوفه بسمانا يلوح، إهلالك لو أمني نشوفه سمانا يلوح، وراح يهيج كل مدامعنا على المذبوح يهيج كل مدامعنا على المذبوح يخبرنا ايش جرى على حسين وعياله يخبرنا ايش جرى على حسين عاشور 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 الهلال اي مأجور استقبال عم عاشور عاشور الهلال مأجور استقبال اي الشهرك هلال كل سنة منيهل هاي كل بيوتنا بيها الملاحة تحل اي وحد هالدموع علل وجيل تنزل اي وعلينا السوادي لو اكتب صالح ايوه علينا السوادي لو اي حلوه عاشور عاشور الليلة مأجور استقبال عاشور عاشور الليلة مأجور استقبال نذيب لون البياضي ونلبس الأسود نذيب لون البياضي ونلبس الأسود هي اللي جمرت مصابك بينا ما تبرد ايوه اليوم الحشور يا حسين تتوقد ايوه المكسور اي قلب اللي نوح يحلاله واللي مكسور قلب اللي نوح يحلاله عاشور عاشور الليلة اي مأجور استقباله عاشور الليلة مأجور استقباله يا ابو اليمة وحق ظل عمرك المبسطة يا ابو اليمة وحق ظل عمرك المكسور علينا من نشوف يهل شهر عاشور بكل شريان دمنا يا ذبيح يفور اي هذا اللي دم وذاك امواله اي هذا اللي دم وذاك امواله عاشور عاشور الليلة عليه مأجور باستقباله اي عاشور الليلة عليه مأجور باستقباله شي يقدمون اي حسين يخدمونك اي السلبة ثيابك ما يجازونك او كم خادم صباح يا حسين مجنونك او كم خادم صباح يا حسين مجنونك توصف حالك أي مثل عابس بحبك ينوصف عاشور عاشور الليلة مجور مجور استقبال يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. آل غفر الله لكم. قال تعالى حبي أبي عبد الله الحسين بأعلى أعلى أعلى أصواتكم. يا حسين وين صاوى يا حسين وين صاوى ودمعي العين سجابه يا حسين
حيا طب كربلاء وواديها وشبول هاشم فراس جاسم ولك فرع الراس ناشر لواء العباس دود الخيم حاميها دود الخيم حاميها أبو كربلاء واديها بعد الهواشم حيا بعد الهواشم حيا طب كربلاء واديها هالسلطنة من التكوين والمملكة باسم حسين والمملكة باسم حسين كربلاء عاصمة الدين من الأزل ويمسجله من الأزل ويمسجله طب كربلاء واديها وعن الهواشم حيا وعن الهواشم حيا طب كربلاء واديها وهالسلطنة أهل الدين والسلطنة الدينية سر جوهر القدسية بهالقاعدة الحربية في ظل ديمة ثبتها في ظل ديمة ثبتها طب كربلاء واديها ضعن الهواشم حيا ضعن الهواشم حيا ضعن الهواشم حيا كربلاء 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 ها يوم عطر عالم كربلاء كربلاء ها يوم عطر عالم نايا هاشم نزلوها عيالنا نايا هاشم نزلوها عيالنا هذه كلمة ظهرت من قرعة علي هذه كلمة ظهرت من قرعة علي تصيح هذا الطف وصلنا يا هلي تصيح هذا الطف وصلنا يا هلي وين اخوتي وين كاف المعملي وين اخوتي وين كاف المعملي ركزوها بالارض عسلانه ركزوها بالارض عسلانه نوخهم دون الهوى تجعل ارض نوخهم دون الهوى تجعل ارض هذه قاعدها مصارعكم فرض صوره صور الاجيال منكم تنعرض صوره الاجيال منكم تنعرض وانتو يا هاشم فخر اجيالنا وانتو يا هاشم فخر اجيالنا كربلاء هذه يا هاشم بالصور محور العالم عليكم ضريدوا محور العالم عليكم ضريدوا الكم بهاي الارض تنزف نحور الكم بهاي الارض تنزف نحور وبشهادتكم تصير امانه وبشهادتكم تصير امانه انتو نور محور للعقيده انتو محور للعقيده والهمم انتو محور للعقيده وللهمم وانا زينب لا تهمكم هالحرم من عدو يا اهلي ارعى
والمؤمنات يا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 يا كاشف السوء يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم اشف هذه الأمة عن هذه الأمة يا الله. اللهم احفظ شيعة أمير المؤمنين في جميع بقاع الأرض يا الله. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم هب لنا رحمته ورحمته ودعاءه وخيرا يا الله. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وأمواتنا وأمواتكم وأموات شيعة أمير المؤمنين والعلماء والشهداء. ورحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
حاج أبو عباس.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمتان قتلت ولعن الله أمتان ظلمت ولعن الله أمة
والأرحام المطهرة لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سر وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا علي يا علي يا علي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.